Welcome back everyone to the 11.13 edition of our Best Solo Carry Champions. Today, we'll be breaking down and sharing with you all the top 3 picks for every single role that have the utmost ability to hard carry games to help you skyrocket in rank extremely fast. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, then you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description. Alright, let's get started. For all your meta and educational content needs, you've come to the right place, so if you're new here, don't forget to drop a sub. And without any further ado, let's jump in. An emphasis on split pushing is being brought back into top lane with the new item introductions, and there's few that do it better than Nasus. Nasus has been on the rise as of recent due to Divine Sunder and Frozen Heart buffs, and will become even stronger in 11.13. Hullbreaker is the item we're really looking at as the perfect second or third pickup for the big dog. With Ultimate active and Demolish from runes, you already have the ability to decimate towers, and Hullbreaker will further this strength even more. Hullbreaker amplifies your damage to towers by 20% and buffs up cannon minions to deal 200% damage to towers as well. Especially in the lower elos where players lack proper rotational skills to play around split pushing, Nasus will be a god pick this patch. Meta matchup wise, Nasus struggles against Wukong, so using your ban on him is a good idea. The order of the build will remain up for debate as the patch progresses. We could potentially see Hullbreaker as a rush item in games where you're snowballing early on, but more realistically, it likely slots in as a second or third purchase. Divine Sunder into Hullbreaker and Frozen Heart would be a sample core build. Fleet Footwork is Nasus's best keystone with Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand. Grab Resolve for secondary, running Second Wind and Unflinching. The second solo carry top laner of the patch is none other than Shen. A really sound, consistent performer over the past few weeks thanks to a couple buffs, and he'll become even better in 11.13. Anathema's Chains has a lot of potential on Shen as it adds to his split push strength and makes his ultimate shield even more insane. Since Shen ultimate now scales off his bonus health, a build of Warmogs into Frostfire and Anathemas would provide such an enormous shield for mid to late game fights. Anathemas allows you to choose one opponent who will deal 30% less damage to you, so you place that on the enemy who's matching you in the side lane and beat them up 1v1. When playing Shen, look to ban out Gwen as it's one of his more difficult meta matchups. There's a couple options in regards to Shen builds at the moment, as you can run the standard Frostfire into Titanic and Thornmail. Warmogs into Frostfire and Anathemas is a new one we expect to possess some serious strength for 11.13. Runes are Grasp with Shield Bash, Second Wind, and Overgrowth. Cheap Shot and Ultimate Hunter are the optimal secondaries. One of the most dominant top laners who's held a spot in our top 3 for multiple patches now is Wukong. The nerf last patch did very little to weaken the Monkey King's strength, so continue to spam him while you can. Wukong performs extremely well into almost all of the most picked AD top laners. The only matchups you should be concerned about are Malphite and Mordekaiser, so it's a good idea to ban one of them out. Over in Korean high elo, the summoner spell combination of Ignite and Teleport is becoming more and more popular on Wukong. It offers up way more early game kill threat, while you still have the ability to get back to lane if need be and pressure side lanes later on with the Teleport. Flash Teleport is still perfectly viable as well though, so you have options based on playstyle and matchups. The core build is Divine Sunder into Black Cleaver and Steric's Gauge. Take Conquer as the keystone with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand. Inspiration secondary running Freeboots and Biscuits works best. As another new build emerges, Xin Zhao has become even more insane and is a must-have jungler in your champion pool for 11.13. If you guys caught our Korean builds video, then you'd know of the Essence Reaver into Gore Drinker setup that puts Xin on a whole nother level. The burst, survivability, and cooldown reduction mesh together so well and offer up a lethal 2-item spike. Xin has to be in line for a nerf within the next patch or two, so take advantage of his power level while you can. Shin's early gank threat and skirmishing strength allows him to run away with the early game and snowball harder than most junglers. Since a large majority of Shin's combo is point and click, there's such little outplay potential for the enemy when you have a lead. The core build is Essence Reaver into Gore Drinker and Steric's. Conqueror is run as the keystone with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand. Roll with Freeboots and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. Slingshotting his way up into our top 3 for the first time in a long time is Zac. There have been so many changes over the past months that have led to Zack's rise, and he's back in an amazing carry position. W buffs, Warmog's buffs, and jungle changes have been the driving factors to Zack finding a spot back in the meta. With camp respawn timers increased, Zack has more time to spam ganks, which is where he shines. The crazy range on Elastic Slingshot lets you set up gank angles from areas that are unwarded and fly in for very high percent chance plays. As you reach the mid to late game, Zack is one of the highest DPS tanks, provides great engage power, and has a nice blend of crowd control. When it comes to a carry tank in the meta, there really isn't anything better than Zack. For the core build, a Frostfire Gauntlet rush into Warmog's 2nd and Thornmail 3rd works extremely well. Runes are Aftershock with Font of Life, Conditioning, and Revitalize. Run with Freeboots and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. Our third solo carry jungler of 11.13, who's been a dominant pickup for quite some time now, is Shaco. There really hasn't been any major shifts to the jungle meta over the past few patches, so Shaco continues to rise above. Like Xin Zhao, you've got amazing early game impact and can use that to snowball your lanes and take over the game. The stealth factor from Q, along with running Ignite, gives Shaco some of the highest value gank power for any jungler. If you're ganking for a lane with any sort of lockdown crowd control, then it's a free kill every single time. As Prowler's Claw is nerfed in 11.13, Duskblade will now become Shaco's #1 mythic, follow with an Essence Reaver 2nd and the Collector 3rd. For AP Shaco, it's a Leandri's Rush into Cosmic Drive 2nd and Zanya's 3rd. Rune-wise, you'll want to take Halo Blades when playing AD Shaco and opt for a Dark Harvest if building AP. Katarina is extremely strong at the moment and is our first solo carry recommendation for mid lane. The new AD build is giving Kat an extra layer of power and makes her such a reliable pick regardless of compositions. The snowball power, skirmish strength, roam potential, and ability to clean up teamfights are what makes Kat such a great solo queue pick. If you're unsure of who to ban when picking Kat, either Galio or Vladimir are annoying matchups worth getting rid of. The luxury of locking in Kat and not having to worry about whether your team will be too heavy AP or AD is such a nice perk. If you're unaware, the build revolves around the buff Divine Sunderer, as Katarina synergizes very well with it. Kat passive procs on hit effects, so the Spellblade passive from Divine gives her immense value. Second item is a Titanic Hydra, as it also has on hit effects that work with Kat passive. The craziest thing about this build is that you still deal a good chunk of damage while being way more difficult to take down. Nashers into Riftmaker or Rocket Belt are two AP setups you can run that are just as strong as the AD build. It really comes down to preference in the situation as to what build is best, so try them out to see what suits you. When playing the Bruiser AD setup, grab Conqueror as your keystone, and when building the burstier AP route, roll with Electrocute. As picks like Rumble and Zed become weaker for 11.13 due to direct and indirect nerfs, Talon will be making his way into our top 3. Now, you might be wondering, well, doesn't Talon become weaker since he builds Prowler's Claw, which is a valid inquiry, but it's not the case. The best Talon setup right now revolves around a Gore Drinker Rush into Black Cleaver 2nd and Sterix 3rd. Even prior to the Prowler's Claw nerfs, Gore has been a cut above, so in 11.13 it's the no-brainer best build. Although you lack that pure one-shot potential, with this setup your burst is still very respectable, while the survivability and overall skirmish power rises exponentially. You've got 45 ability haste on the 2-item spike, which allows for Talon to constantly weave in and out of fights and be a more consistent threat. This new Broken Bruiser build combined with Talon's strong early game and great roaming power make him the perfect solo queue mid. LeBlanc is one of Talon's more difficult meta matchups, so it's worthwhile to ban her out. The build path can be swapped around depending on the game. If the enemy comp possesses lots of shielding, then a Serpent's Fang 2nd item can work instead of Cleaver. Conqueror is the best keystone with Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand. Run Eyeball Collector and Ravenous Hunter for secondaries. It should really be no surprise that Sylas rounds out our top 3 as he's indirectly buffed for 11.13. Everfrost is seeing a cost reduction of 200 gold, which gives Sylas a slightly faster early game spike. Like Kat and Talon, Sylas really thrives in skirmish situations, especially once he ticks level 9. Fully maxed out W gives Sylas insane sustain, and his power in those drawn out fights is crazy high. Katarina is one of the better bans for Sylas, as her high mobility and grievous wounds can do a good job at shutting him down. Once you complete Everfrost and Cosmic Drive, it's smooth sailing as you'll have so much ability haste. Zanya's is the most optimal 3rd purchase in the majority of games. Take Conqueror as the keystone with Presence of Mind, Tenacity, and Last Stand. Biscuits and Cosmic Insight are Sylas's best secondaries. Heading down to the bot lane, our first solo carry for 11.13, maybe a bit of a surprise, as it is Ziggs. There have been 3 huge changes in the past 2 patches that have suddenly turned Ziggs into the most sleeper OP bot laner. Q damage was increased, missile speed on ultimate has gone up, and Luden's has seen a cost reduction. The constant poke from Q in lane and permashove gives Ziggs the agency to harass the enemy out of lane and pick up multiple tower plates. By running teleport as your secondary summoner spell, you've got relentless pressure that your standard AD carry simply cannot match. It's even more insane if you pair Ziggs up with a hard engage meta support like Leona or Thresh, as the all-in at level 6 is free kills all day. At the very least, you should have Ziggs ready as a pocket pick in games where you're lacking AP. We'd highly recommend spamming Ziggs in 11.13 though, as his strength will be unmatched. For the build, rush Luden's into Archangels and Zhonya's. In games where you've stormed ahead early, then skipping Archangels to build Horizon Focus will give you more immediate power. Take Comet as the keystone with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch. Magical Footwear and Biscuits are the optimal secondaries. Vayne continues to stand on top of the solo queue meta for ADC and is a great carry for 11.13. Due to Vayne's high mobility and stealth factor, she's one of the few marksmen who's seeing success into Ezreal right now, which is a big pro. We'll see Ezreal come back down to life due to the big Divine Sunderer nerf, and that just lets Vayne rise even more. Lulu and Karma's play rates continue to climb patch after patch, which is perfect for Vayne. With yet another patch of no Lulu nerfs, she'll become the most picked support in the entire game. If you can play a good Vayne and have a Lulu by your side, then you've got an extremely high chance to hard carry come mid to late game. Vayne builds are really solid right now too. Kraken into PD and Infinity Edge is the standard hard carry setup. However, you can swap Kraken for Shield Bow in games where the enemy comp is Heavy Assassin. Run Press the Attack is the keystone with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Secondary runes are Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter. And the final marksman to round out our top 3 is Kog'Maw. Kog's had a really great run over the past while here thanks to direct buffs and his versatile build paths. Just like Vayne, Kog really excels due to the direction of the support meta, as he too is amazing when paired with Karma or Lulu. The tank build of Wit's End into Hurricane and Randuin's makes it almost impossible for assassins to take you out in fights. If you've got a Lulu by your side, the enemy might as well just AFK, as that duo in teamfights is unbeatable for 11.13. Even though Kai'Sa has been nerfed quite heavily, she still sees a lot of play, and Kog has an absolute field day in that matchup. Cog W allows him to abuse those shorter ranged marksmen, and even though Kog'Maw is more known for his scaling power, the early bully threat is nothing to scoff at. There are so many variations to Kog's build right now, so we'll leave you with a few to try out. Standard cookie cutter setup is Wit's End into Hurricane and Randuin's Omen. For more defensive power, you can swap Hurricane for Immortal Shield Bow. If you're feeling full-on offensive, then Def's Korean build of PD into Gale Force and Quick Blades can work well too. Pick up Lethal Tempo with Presence of Mind, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace for primary runes. Optimal secondaries are Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter. Moving on to support, our first recommendation has seen a solid power shift in the last few patches, being Zyra. The direct buffs and now Liandry's buff have been the major triggers to Zyra's push up the tier list. That 200 gold off of Liandry's will feel really good, as it's already difficult enough to generate gold as a support. Liandry's is such a massive spike for Zyra, so being able to hit that faster gives her even more solo carry potential. Zyra performs really well into meta enchanter supports like Lulu and Karma, as her all-in damage can melt through their squishy health bars. Ban out Leona and you'll have a great time against most other highly played supports. For the build, rush Liandry's into Zhonya's and Demonic Embrace. Take Comet as the keystone, followed by Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch. Domination secondary, running Taste of Blood and Relentless Hunter will do the trick. So, yet another patch without any Lulu nerfs means she's back as a top 3 carry and a must-picker ban in 11.13. With Senna nerfed due to the Divine Sunderer changes, Lulu shoots up in priority even more. In 11.12, Lulu's pick rate hovered around 17%, while her ban rate was around 40%, and we wouldn't be surprised if both those numbers climbed even more. It was really just a bunch of unnecessary buffs a couple patches back that propelled Lulu up into her insane state. Shuralia's being hit this patch will tone Lulu down slightly, but Moonstone Moonstone is being buffed, so her overall power level won't really be affected. All the utility Lulu provides, combined with the added mobility from Shirelia's, turns her into the most broken protective support in the game. Moonstone should see way more viability for 11.13 now, so look to swap around mythics depending on the game. If you're against heavy dive and the mobility from Shirelia's will be useful, then continue to build it. Otherwise, look the way of Moonstone. Run Guardian when against hard engaged melee supports, and if your versus double ranged, then taking Aerie will be of good value. As a result of Divine Sunderer nerfs, Senna will be dropping down and Leona replaces her in the top 3. Leona's been way too good for way too long and is such a reliable support to climb solo queue fast. The long-range engage threat allows you to pull the trigger instantly and find picks when the enemy is caught out of position. Once one CC ability lands, the chain that follows gives Leona such high success rate on her pick plays. The new item Anathema's Chains will be really interesting as the passive reduces the enemy's tenacity by 20%. Placing this on the enemy AD carry will mean tagging them with a full combo offers no chance of them escaping. For the standard complete build, rush a Locket into Zeke's and then Knight's Vow. We can see Anathema's fitting in as a second or third purchase, but we'll have to test it and see how powerful it ends up as the patch progresses. Roll with Aftershock as the keystone, followed by Font of Life, Bone Plating, and Unflinching. Hex Flash and Biscuits are for secondaries. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into ELO hell 629 times and counting, where they commentate on how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $4.99 a month if you're serious about improving. Alright guys, that's going to wrap everything up for our best solo carry picks of 11.13. For all your meta and educational content needs, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks for watching everyone, have fun with all these new setups, we'll catch you back soon.